Coming up next on the Holistic Wealth Podcast.
It's a monumental day for our entire community. Holistic Wealth officially surpassed 120 million people impacted. I am really grateful to each and every one of you who joined the movement. If you are suffering through grief, tragedy, a chronic illness, just remember that embracing holistic wealth can guide you back to your purpose. Every single step you take counts towards living a more holistically wealthy lifestyle.
You're listening to the Holistic Wealth Podcast with host Keisha Blair, author of Holistic Wealth and founder of the Institute on Holistic Wealth. And now, here's your host, Keisha Blair.
Welcome to the Holistic Wealth Podcast. And I'm your host, Keisha Blair, and today is another very special episode of the Holistic Wealth Podcast. We're celebrating the global holistic wealth movement that's officially surpassed 120 million people impacted by the movement. So it's a very special episode. And before we get into that, I just want to give a shout out to the Institute on Holistic Wealth, who officially sponsors the Holistic Wealth Podcast. And you can check out the Institute on Holistic Wealth website at www.instituteonholisticwealth.com for a range of courses and resources to help you live a holistically wealthy lifestyle. Now, it's such an honor for me to go through this episode with everyone listening in today because it's a monumental day for our entire community. This has been a movement that has grown organically from ground up since the first viral article was published through to the first edition of the book, the Holistic Wealth Expanded Updated Edition, the Holistic Wealth Personal Workbook, and the various international and translated editions of the book that we now have, and especially the German edition of Holistic Wealth that was just launched last week. So I am really grateful to each and every one of you who've joined the movement, who've tuned in to the Holistic Wealth Podcast week after week, for sharing, for leaving reviews, for posting on social media, whatever you have been doing. I'm deeply, deeply grateful and humbled for this journey. And reaching and surpassing 120 people is over 10%. It represents over 10% of our 1 billion goal to impact lives around the world with holistic wealth. And it's just the beginning. We want to thank all our listeners of the podcast for helping us reach this tremendous milestone. Of course, it's not just the podcast, as I mentioned. It's Global Holistic Wealth Day. It's the whole movement. And so we're grateful for your ongoing support. And so I just want to shout out the power of the holistic wealth generation. I remember years ago, I think it was 2019, I wrote an article on the New York Observer titled The Holistic Wealth Generation and how powerful that was going to be. And that was almost a prophetic article because I just wrote it. I didn't know what was going to happen afterwards. I didn't know any of this was coming. And so looking back now to see what God has placed out there, what God has instilled in each and every one of you and on my heart is just tremendous. And so I coined that term in that New York Observer article. And, you know, what is the holistic wealth generation? If you're listening in for the first time, well, this is a global community of people in the movement, in the holistic wealth movement, committed to a holistically wealthy lifestyle. They value purpose. They value resilience. They value sustainability. They're everyday people going around about their business. They're students budgeting wisely while pursuing their passions. The parents balancing careers with family, intentional family time. Single women, single men going about their business, growing their careers and, you know, dealing with their lives. The entrepreneurs building sustainable businesses that prioritize both profit and people, not just profit alone. And of course, every single one of you listening in is part of this moving, making choices every day that align with your finances, your health, your relationships, and your mindset. And it's so powerful that as we go through this episode, we're going to be speaking about holistic wealth being the key to resilience, as well as the holistic wealth movement surpasses 120 million. And what does that mean? And it's such an exciting episode. I have some examples from this week from social media, real resilience and action. I've drawn on some examples that I thought were so compelling from various people who are well known and how they have been putting resilience into action and, actually doing it in a holistically wealthy way, probably channeling those lessons from the book unconsciously, not really knowing, but that's what they're absolutely doing. And it's amazing because beyond the numbers, beyond that 120 million lies resilience. Because in a world that feels increasingly uncertain and chaotic, and I know many of us have been looking around 2025, it just seems like so much is going on. But one truth remains: holistic wealth is the key to resilience. So if you are listening in and you're suffering through grief, you're suffering through tragedy, you're suffering through a chronic illness that's just beating you every day, you're suffering through caregiving, through a sick loved one, you're suffering through just the daily grind of just feeling exhausted and anxious all the time, just remember that embracing the tenets, the principles, the framework of holistic wealth can guide you back to your purpose, guide you back to meaning in life. And it's so unbelievable that as we talk about the growth of the holistic wealth movement, there have been so many setbacks on the way here, from plagiarism, people copying my work, to really getting the word out there has been hard, heartbreaking work. And this story stemmed from adversity and tragedy. And so we all can identify with that. We all can identify with a time in our lives where we suffered a life-altering setbacks, and probably multiple for many of us. So as we think about holistic wealth, we're thinking about resilience, and we're thinking about the actions you take on a daily basis to enrich your holistic wealth bank account, to enrich your life, to enrich your family's life. And as we talk about, I mentioned purpose earlier, and I know without a shadow of a doubt, this is my life purpose. And so many people ask me all the time, and I just want to put this out there. People ask me, what's my life purpose? How can I know? How can I make my life more meaningful? Your life purpose is always centered in spiritual self-renewal. It's always God-given. It's always placed on your heart to impact your community, to impact humanity. There's this quote in Holistic Wealth where I talk about spiritual self-renewal being the nucleus of your life purpose, because it has to be grounded there. So go back to that chapter of the book if you have not read it yet, or if you don't have a copy of the book, get the book and reread that, because it's also central to resilience. Because with the roadblocks and setbacks that came my way with this movement, I would have for sure given up already. There were times where I felt like giving up. There were days where I felt like this makes no sense anymore. But you know what? It's not about the money. It's not about any of those societal measures of success. It's about getting up and remembering the reason why I do this, remembering every life that gets impacted every single time someone reaches out to me about the quiz, the personal financial identity quiz on the Institute website, saying, oh, I'm taking the quiz and I'm in the middle of it and I'm having trouble, and I stop doing what I'm doing in the middle of my day to troubleshoot, to get them to finish that quiz. And that happened just this week. Every single action that I take is committed to this community. And so with your life, it's the same. And so I just want to go into some stories of resilience. And of course, there were so many stories in the past couple of weeks that really resonated with me. You know, just last week, Serena Williams opened up about her terrifying health scare. She had a grapefruit-sized cyst that had to be surgically removed from her neck. She's now on a mission to ensure that women, especially Black women, aren't dismissed or ignored in healthcare settings. And she said it best: women deserve better. I want my daughters to know how to listen to their bodies. And I think that's amazing that she's on a path now of using this healthcare. And she's had, as you know, other health scares in the past, to enrich her community, to educate everyone, to educate women and Black women who suffer tremendously from various health issues and, of course, are often dismissed, as she said, or ignored in healthcare settings. And then there's her sister, Venus Williams, who at 45 just made a comeback to tennis. after battling chronic health issues, surgery, and years of being misdiagnosed. Now, she posted on Instagram, and I saw that post just this week, and I thought, wow, this is amazing. She posted a photo of her in the hospital room after surgery, talking about her diagnosis of multiple fibroids and adenomyosis that was found. And she basically said in that post that she had battled this for years, not knowing what was going on. Adenomyosis is something that not many women know about. And I thought that was amazing that she highlighted that, because I also suffered through adenomyosis. And we'll do a podcast episode on that shortly. But she's using her platform to educate and inform and to show that resilience in action. So when I talk about these examples, it's to show how they're using the Holistic Wealth method, inadvertently, by the way, to educate, to inform, and to inspire others to take action in a way that benefits, whether it's your health or your well-being or your wellness. Serena actually told The Guardian, love is the key, right? And she's right. Love for self, love for purpose, love for health is part of what we define in the Holistic Wealth mindset. And so before I go on to a few more examples of resilience this week, I want to pause to show you just how urgent resilience has become. And this is the reason that I'm tying this back to the growth of the Holistic Wealth movement, because it's all about this, right? This is why it has grown so tremendously organically. So let's look at the numbers here, because in last week's episode, I spoke about retirement and spoke about the retirement gap and how, so many pension plans have shrunk to nothing, almost nothing. I think since the 1980s was that stat that I had in last week's podcast episode. But it's a 400 million global retirement gap. And you can check out that episode last week for more information on that. But what I'm trying to highlight here is that the world has gotten more chaotic. Global economies are shrinking. People are feeling a weight on them financially. And whether it's pensions, it's salaries, it's job security, 70% of adults are actually living paycheck to paycheck globally. Women are retiring with 30 to 40% less wealth than men overall. But it's a problem for both men and women. I want to state that emphatically. It's not just a female problem, but women are retiring with up to 40% less wealth than men overall, which is big. It's huge. And 95% of people don't have a financial plan that supports mental and emotional health. Only 1 in 4 people globally feel financially secure right now. And that reveals a shocking truth. And I know we're not shocked, because when we talk about wealth and income inequality, we see it every day, right? It's a 1% there that's thriving, and then everybody else feels crunched. So this is not really shocking, but the old model of wealth, the old definition, the old model of everything, hustle, hustle, grind, 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 and, your health suffers. We can't thrive. It's burnout and loneliness and mental health crisis. That old model of wealth has failed all of us. And so what I want to do is to basically highlight the benefit of embracing holistic wealth, not only for your physical and mental well-being, but for your finances as well. And even when we talk about life purpose and spiritual self-renewal, and why all of this is critically important. Now, I know for those of us who grew up in church, we always heard about testimonies. People were always standing up in church, giving their testimonials. And that's why I'm bringing in some of these resilient stories as testimonies to show how all of this ties together. And so that's why the world is turning to holistic wealth, because it's not just about the money. It's about all of these aspects. If 70% of women globally feel financially secure, especially in midlife, which is the case, 70% of women globally feel financially insecure. And I know a lot of men do feel the same way, especially in midlife. And 61% of people say burnout is affecting their mental health. Then we know that we need coping mechanisms to thrive in this kind of world. And that's where holistic wealth comes in. So I'm going to just go back to a few more resilient stories because I think they're so powerful. And I just have a few more stories that matter, stories that I've seen in the news or on social media. And I think they're amazing when we think about how we live, how we put holistic wealth into action, because it's so critical. You know, we talk about how to live a holistically wealthy lifestyle, but how do we put it in action on a daily basis? How do we live it in the context of our daily lives when we get up stressed, we get up dealing with the kids every morning? You know, school is out now, but when school starts back very soon, how do we do that? Now, just this week, Alexa Ray Joel shared a deeply personal story of healing. And despite years of generational grief, she turned to movement. She turned to physical activity. And Alexa Ray Joel is the daughter of Billy Joel, that famous singer. And she turned to physical activity and now leads a race against depression because for years, you know, she suffered from that and that was passed down generationally. And so that's resilience in motion. And that's exactly what Holistic Wealth teaches us to build physically, emotionally, and spiritually. And so that's another example of why these stories are important, because they highlight various pillars of holistic wealth and just give us ideas on how to live a holistically wealthy lifestyle. Similarly, Miss Universe Canada has become a chronic illness advocate. Sarah Levitt, she's living with Crohn's disease and has an ostomy bag and turned her journey into activism, transforming something she once hid into a powerful platform for body positivity and chronic illness resilience. Her story aligns perfectly also with holistic wealth values of self-acceptance, empowerment, and redefining those narratives. Now, I just want to highlight, you know, when we talk about Crohn's disease and gut health, and we talk about colon health, colon cancer, just from this example of Miss Universe Canada, there are so many people suffering from colon issues. There are rising rates of colon cancer. And we also need to be very, very mindful about gut health. So there's an episode on the Holistic Wealth podcast on gut health, and it's with Dr. Ken Redcross, and it's entitled 70% of your immune system lives in your gut and why this is important. And if this is something that you want to check out, please do check it out and share with your friends, share with those who are impacted by illnesses related to colon or to the gut. And, you know, it has so much information that Dr. Redcross shared. Celebrities like, you know, and I know Justin Timberlake was in the news talking about battling Lyme disease and sharing a light on resilience in the face of that as well. And that was in the news this week as well. And then, of course, I don't know if you've heard about Pawandeep Rajan. Now, he was an Indian Idol winner and he was in the hospital. He performed a heartfelt song for hospital staff while recovering, and his moment went viral. And it speaks volumes about purpose, compassion, and overcoming adversity. It's a powerful example of embracing the holistic wealth method. And in the book, Holistic Wealth, I talk about the holistic wealth method. And that's basically an example in action because he used that to spread happiness and joy to enrich his own holistic wealth bank account. And when we talk about the holistic wealth method, for those of you who are joining in for the very first time, the holistic wealth method is a daily decision method. So every single day we make 50,000 decisions. And it basically says, what can I do to impact in a positive way my holistic wealth bank account? And if you get up every day and you think about that, now with this example of this Indian Idol winner, now he made that decision in that moment to use that to enrich the lives of others. And in turn, he's enriching his own holistic wealth bank account. And there's so many people who can be enriched when we use our stories, right? When we use our situation to basically enrich other people's lives, no matter what we're going through, no matter how it feels. So those are some examples of resilience in action. And I want to just leave you with 3 powerful resilience strategies from Holistic Wealth. These are not the only 3 by any measure. Every one of those 36 life lessons outlined in the book is pointing you in that resilience, strengthening those resilience muscles. So each of those 36 life lessons does that. And so I just want to point you to 3 powerful resilience strategies from Holistic Wealth just before we go. For those of you who haven't taken the personal financial identity quiz, it's on the Institute on Holistic Wealth website, and you can build your personal financial identity. You can use this to enrich you. You can use this to help with your financial planning, your daily spending. And when you understand your unique relationship with money, whether you're a minimalist, a maximalist, or risk taker, your personal financial identity determines how you weather those storms. So just this week, I heard from people telling me that they're going to spread the link with the personal financial identity to their entire teams. So teams can do this together. You can do this together in your book clubs or in your church group, in your gym groups, in your walking groups, in your running groups, in your hiking groups, in your travel groups, whatever groups you have, and talk about it. Discuss it with each other. It's something that you can do with your family and with your spouse for your money date nights, and basically make decisions powerfully using your personal financial identity. And so that's number 1. Number 2, develop daily resilience rituals. Now, I know some people get up every morning with prayer and meditation, and I know that is a powerful, the most powerful resilience ritual you can ever use, right? It's just prayer, getting into that mode, talking to God, giving thanks to God for everything that you have. And just like you brush your teeth, these resilience habits protect your emotional and your financial well-being. That morning gratitude, weekly wealth goals or weekly family goals, intentional spending. These rituals are micro shields. They shield us from destruction, a path of destruction. If we spend widely, then that's a path of destruction. So these rituals, these resilience rituals are micro shields. And when we embrace it on a daily basis, I know some people say, I can't leave the house without prayer for the morning. That's a shield because you're protecting yourself from the day. When you do your morning gratitude, when you set out for the day to only spend a certain amount or a no spend day, or you have a no spend day, it's the same thing. So all of these holistic wealth rituals are also micro shields. They shield us from going down a path that we don't want to go to because it's going to have very, very bad consequences. So that's number 2. Embrace these financial resilience rituals, embrace these holistic wealth rituals. And it's not only financial resilience, it's spiritual resilience. It's basically making sure that we protect our emotional, spiritual, and financial well-being. Practice decision-making for resilience. So every day, how you spend your time, who you trust with different information about your life, every day that you make that decision is a fork in the road. And when we think about a fork in the road, we're thinking about the different path we can take, right? And we can take a path of entrusting that information with somebody who we know will not protect it versus somebody who will, or spending on something that we know we shouldn't, that depletes our holistic wealth bank account. So the holistic wealth framework teaches intentionality. It teaches life purpose clarity. So you don't have to feel out of control again. And so those are 3 that I just want to leave you with. And, as you go about your week, these resilience rituals. Now, again, just coming back to the holistic wealth movement, I just want to go back just to the German edition of the book, just very quickly, because that just launched and we're so excited about that. I'm excited about that launch in Germany. And I just want to state again, it's available for order right now. So if you're in Europe, if you have friends in Europe, or you want a collector's item, then that's there for you. And please help us spread the word about the German edition of the book. As the holistic wealth movement grows, it's resonating deeply across Europe, and we're very, very humbled and grateful for that. The book was published by Scorpio Verlag in Munich, and, inciting conversation across Germany, across Europe, not only in Germany's vibrant cities like Berlin, Munich, Hamburg, Frankfurt, Stuttgart, but also spreading throughout, other European hubs in Austria, Switzerland, parts of Belgium, and the Netherlands. So this edition has really opened up new doors for conversations about resilience, and especially in economies facing rapid change, where people are eager to redefine success beyond traditional financial measures. And so as we celebrate this milestone for the movement, I just want to again highlight the German episode. It's available in bookstores in cities across Frankfurt and Cologne and in, Vienna and Zurich. And so this European footprint is vital because in countries juggling pressures of modern life, like we are here in North America, aging populations, economic uncertainty, pension uncertainty, the principles of holistic wealth do offer a clear pathway, right? Not just to survive, but to thrive with resilience and purpose. So again, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us for this episode of the Holistic Wealth Podcast. I so appreciate everyone who has walked this journey and really helped out in little small micro ways. Every single message counts. Every single action you take counts, not only for people around you, but for your broader community and globally as well. Love you all. Have a holistically wealthy week and share this episode with your network and leave us a review, a quick review, one sentence on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or YouTube, whichever platform you listen to your podcast. And again, remember that every single step you take counts towards living a more holistically wealthy lifestyle. Love you all. Have a great week.
The Holistic Wealth Podcast with Keisha Blair is brought to you by... Have you joined the Institute on Holistic Wealth? If you haven't already, what are you waiting for? Choose your membership plan at the Institute on Holistic Wealth/memberships to join. As a member, you'll get access to free worksheets, advice, coaching, and an intentional design workshop. As you start to live a more holistically wealthy lifestyle, you'll want to stay for a very long time. So go to Institute on Holistic Wealth/memberships to join. If you haven't read the book yet, pick up a copy of the award-winning best-selling Holistic Wealth 36 Life Lessons to help you recover from disruption, find your life purpose, and achieve financial freedom.